Hi, everyone. I want to welcome you to this interview that we have with Catlin Tucker. Yay! We're super excited about the Blended Learning Conference we'll be having on July 27th, and we're very excited to have Catlin here to share a little bit about herself. We have some questions we're going to ask you just to get to know you, and then a couple questions about blended learning. But before we get started, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I am in I think it's my 15th year in the classroom. So I teach a special pilot program this year where I co-teach English, science, and technology. And I co-teach with another teacher. It's integrated curriculum. And we're about 2 weeks from being done. And so things are a little hectic on my end. I teach half-time. So in the other half of my time, I wear a lot of different hats. I'm a blended learning coach at a district north of us. I have written several books and I'm in the process of writing another one, and I do some consulting work and kind of fly all over working with teachers and training on blended learning.
Oh, we're so excited that you're going to be visiting us in EPISD because we love to learn from people. Especially, I'm most excited because you're a teacher, and I know you live it, so that's exciting to me.
I do.
All right. Well, Catlin, like Karen was saying, we'd like to know a little bit more about you. So would you tell us what your favorite drink is?
Coffee with soy milk.
Ooh, I haven't tried soy milk in my coffee. I might have to.
I don't do dairy, and so for me, soy is the only option, but I don't think I could do my life without coffee.
I'm with you there,
Yes,
too.
I love coffee.
Okay, what kind of small things make your day better?
Besides coffee, my stolen moments and cuddles with my kids. I have an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old, and so I'm very aware that we're like on the cusp of moments when probably cuddling with mom won't be at the top of their priority list. So those moments are sweet. And then anytime that I actually get a moment for myself, which is very rare, is a sweet stolen moment for sure.
That sounds like my life as well. Aw, enjoy those moments with your babies for sure.
And Catlin, who has impressed you the most with what they have accomplished?
Oh man, that's a tough question. I am super impressed by so many people that I have the pleasure of knowing in kind of the ed tech education space. The crazy Miss Alice Keeler is a good friend of mine, and I marvel at what the woman can do in terms of jet setting all over the globe. Rushton Hurley is a constant source of inspiration for me, and George Couros is also kind of a breath of fresh air in this space. A big fan of Alan November, who is also kind of, with all his quirky uniqueness, inspires me to kind of think bigger. So lots of really important people in my life in this space.
There's actually one name there that I don't follow on Twitter, so I'm going to get to it and find them. I'll listen to this recording again and go. Awesome. Well, we want you to know that we are impressed by you, too.
You.
All right. So one last question in just our getting to know you part is, what is one thing that most people are obsessed with and you don't see the point of?
You know, I think in my age group, a lot of the people that I am, connected with are obsessed with Facebook and kind of like diary sharing on Facebook and checking in on Facebook. And I have to be honest, it's just not, of all the tech tools and ways to connect, it's really like not my favorite.
I think I'm a little bit of a Facebook junkie. What about you?
Yes, me too. I love Facebook.
But I totally understand if you're strapped for time, that's a bad place to spend it, maybe.
I feel like I end up seeing more ads and like random videos of animals doing odd things now than actually connecting with people I care about. And I get all these connection requests from people I don't personally know. Like Facebook is kind of my friends and family zone, like people I actually really know really well. And so I get these requests from random people who know of me. And Twitter is like where I do that.
Right.
I'll connect with you on Twitter. But like Facebook is my family spot, and so that kind of makes it a little odd too, because I feel bad saying no, like I'm not going to accept your request, but like I'm not going to accept your request if I don't know who you are.
I'm totally with you there too. Yeah, my Facebook has tend to be like more of my close teacher friends too, and my family.
Yeah, too.
And Twitter is where I share just my, I guess, educational resources and what we're doing in our district. Very cool. Well, we can't wait to meet you in person. And of course, we wanted to just ask you some questions about blended learning, because of course, it's something that we've been talking about at our district, for some time, and we've had a pilot in our high schools. But there are a lot of teachers that are really not sure what blended learning is, or are they using it as just another word or term for something that they're already doing. And so I'm wondering if you'll tell us, here we go. For educators that are feeling unsure about what blended learning is, can you share with us a friendly description just to kind of help them feel a little more comfortable with it, or just understand what it is?
Yeah, I mean, you can go to the Christensen Institute and read the formal definition of blended learning. But I think for me, whenever I think about blended learning, I think of active engaged learning in the classroom, that face-to-face active engaged learning, with active engaged learning online. And that online learning can also be happening in the classroom, or it can extend beyond the classroom walls. And it can, there's obviously lots of different models, but I train teachers who primarily aren't in blended learning schools. And so they're dabbling their feet into things like the station rotation model and the flipped classroom. And how do you weave those two together with the in-class flip? And what does the flex model look like in a regular classroom? So I think as long as we're being really intentional with how we weave together learning mediums, then you're getting close to blended learning.
Okay, great. And how did you get started with blended learning in the classroom?
I tell people all the time that I wish I could tout my forward thinking ness or whatever, and say that I was just really progressive and I wanted to try new things, but that would be a lie. I tried blended learning because I was really about to leave this profession. It was not what I thought I was signing up for. My kids were not engaged in the way I had imagined them being engaged. And so for me, I actually was on maternity leave working as an online professor to make extra money because my husband's a teacher. So living on one teacher salary, kind of not a spectacular experience. And it was in that role as an entirely online professor that I got interested in the potential of technology. So when I went back into the classroom after maternity leave, I really was curious about what aspects of this can I weave into my traditional classroom and my traditional very low tech classroom. So that's really where it started for me, is can I engage these kids with technology?
Thank you for being honest, because it's the real teachers with those real experiences that you're totally inspiring. So why did you decide to practice blended learning in your classroom? Well, you already answered that, so maybe we should just skip that question.
Well, I will say my main objective was to create a student-centered classroom. And I would say for definitely the first 5 years of my career, it was a teacher-centered classroom. I was the focus. I had all the information. I guided everything that happened. And I realized that was not engaging my students. And so for me, I wanted to use different blended learning models to shift the focus from me to them in everything that we did. I wanted to place them at the center of learning. So that was my motivation for sure.
Very inspiring.
Mm-hmm. And Catlin, how long did it take before you felt comfortable using blended learning in the classroom?
Oh my God, years. I think I tell teachers all the time, my first year, I really picked up I did online discussions, and then I did mobile devices, and we're using all these different apps because I didn't have any computers in my classroom and there was no mobile carts on my campus. And we had one computer lab, so I would sometimes take kids there, but we have a campus of 1,800 kids, so getting in there was no easy deal. And so for me, I tell people my first book on blended learning is just a product of all the mistakes I learned, or all the mistakes I made and everything I learned from them. So I would make a mistake, or I would make an assumption about what kids could do or what they knew, and then I'd realize they couldn't do it, they didn't know how to do it, and I needed to design something to support them. So I feel like for the first 3-4 years, I was definitely floundering and just making a whole bunch of mistakes, but I was very okay with that. And every mistake I made, I stopped and I was like, okay, how can I do this better? What do they need from me that I'm not giving them? And so that's, like I said, I just stumbled my way through the first 4 years.
That's encouraging, because I know sometimes I feel like it takes a long time to feel comfortable with it, but just persevering and not giving up is definitely the key. And especially for our hungry kids, right? Our kids who want to learn. Yeah.
And by the way, if you hit a bump and you're floundering, the best thing you can do is turn to those 30 bodies in your room and be like, who can help me figure this out? Because I think students are the most underutilized tech support in a classroom. And too often we as teachers feel like we have to have all the answers. We have to know everything and master it before we try it. It's just not realistic with technology.
I agree. Okay, so back to, we know that you've written 2 books, correct me if I'm wrong, about blended learning. 4 books.
2 books about blended learning, currently writing one more on that topic, but more from the professional learning scope.
Okay. And so I guess for any of the books, we wanted to know who inspired you to write a book about blended learning, but who inspired you to write a book, publish a book?
What's funny? Not anybody in the education space. It's a friend of mine, this guy named Colt. He was working at a company that was doing online discussions, and he was like, you gotta try it, and I was really hesitant, and then I started trying it, and it went so well. Online discussions was so powerful that for me it like opened the floodgates. And I remember Colt just telling me, like, you gotta write a book about this, and I said to him at that point, I was like, you're crazy, like, I'm not writing a book about it. Who's gonna want to read a book that I'm writing about blended learning? And then sure enough, I started speaking at conferences, and people could not grab resources fast enough. And it was clear there was a real need, because at that point there wasn't a lot written, and a lot of what was written were big, kind of like the big umbrella, like, why is this important and how does it benefit kids? But like nothing concrete for teachers, which is what we need to figure out. How do we get this done?
Exactly. And we want to read your book. We're reading it right now, The Blended Learning in Action. And we're challenging ourselves so that every single week we read a whole chapter. And we also saw that you had your own book group on Twitter too. So it's like super exciting. Yep.
Yeah, Jason and Tiffany are pretty great about moderating that, and I chime in.
Okay, so here's your chance to lure more educators to our conference. What would you share with a teacher that is trying to decide if she should stay and sleep in or enjoy a day at the conference?
You definitely want to grab a big coffee and come to the conference, because we as teachers, and I can say this because I am one, we complain all the time that we don't have enough time to like learn about new stuff and figure out how is this going to look in my classroom. We're just treading water most of the time. So if you come to the conference, one thing I will not do when you hear me speak is talk in big umbrella terms. I will pin everything to these specific concrete things I'm doing with kids. You'll see kids in action in my classroom, in my presentation, so you can visualize what these things look like instead of me painting a really kind of broad, vague picture for you. It will be super concrete, and I guarantee teachers will leave with something excited to try that they've never done before.
Awesome. Thank you for making it real,
And you hooked me. I'm going.
Good. It'll be great.
Oh, thank you so much for your time. And Catlin, we appreciate what you do and what you're sharing with teachers around the world, like globally, and even with the students in your classroom, because they're so important just to our future in America and education. And you really do inspire us.
Thank you. That's nice to hear at this moment, about 8 days from the end of the school year, when I kind of want to just kill all of them.
And you're still making a difference. And you will next year too. They're still gonna, that impact you make affects them for the rest of their life. And
yeah, I'm the lucky one. They inspire me. It's the reason I keep trying to make this balance of being in the classroom work, because it's like my playground, it's my lab. They challenge me, they force me to think bigger, they show me what doesn't work, and so I'm truly the lucky one.
Thank you so much for spending some time with us.
Yeah.
And
nice to meet you both.
Of course, it's wonderful meeting you, and we can't wait to see you here in El Paso, Texas. We'll get you for a whole day.
No, it'll be my first